How's it going, lovely audience? Welcome to Two Left. My name's Graham, and here are more big shot eggs for Deltarune Chapter 2. While I still plan to do an eventual theory-style irresistible content on the character in the same vein as my Sans or Pieces of Hyperlink Blocked series, I thought it would be worth doing a dedicated video on everyone's favorite Kungadero. In the meantime, showing off some very interesting, very details and references, all leading to the big Spamton Hyperlink Blocked. I'll leave some of the heavier theorizing at the basement entrance for now, and hopefully I can get the ball rolling on some community theories by sharing this information all in one video. Please feel welcome to share in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them. That was genuinely so fun to put together. This video is brought to you by Alice is Dead, Hearts and Diamonds. This original Flash game trilogy was all about mystery. You're thrown into a twisted world of Wonderland, left to figure out who you are, what's going on, and 1,000 other things. The game is littered with secrets, and with this full remake of that trilogy, we'll be greatly expanding the story, answering questions that were never before answered, and taking things to all new levels. Please give that a wishlist over on Steam, help us build a bit of momentum there. And I've dodged around it for long enough. I think it's time I finally include some of the finer details about Spamton. I'm not going to include every possible bit of dialogue from Spamton's shop or from the fight, anything around there. I have my own playthrough of the game where I did that very comprehensively, so there's no point repeating it here. Instead, I'll show how to access the secrets, how to make the fight happen, some of the branching dialogue options, secrets, references, and implications along the way, the fun, lighter details rather than the deeper, troubling ones. But then I'll also be saving the theory crafting for probably some sort of larger videos. Spamton suggests that maybe you press F1 for help, and if you do so at any point, then a little angel Spamton comes in and heals you up, although doing so only works the once. Spamton's constantly trying to push deals on you and take your money. If you refuse the deal, deal or no deal. That's the TV show, where the people who don't take the deal get filled with bullets fired from the host's mouth. I don't recall ever seeing Howie Mandel do this, but I guess I haven't seen that much of the show. Sounds like maybe I ought to start tuning in. If you choose violence and attack Spamton to defeat him, hey, didn't you ever hear the phrase, make money not war? How's an innocent guy like me supposed to rip people off? When kids like you are beating people up, spitting in their eyes, throwing sand in their face, stomping on their toes, yanking their noses, and not even giving them a single cent for it. You should have done all that earlier, and been the first to own my commemorative ring. Too bad. See ya, kid. This fully cuts off the ability to visit him later on at his shop, so definitely spare him if you want to do the secret boss. This line specifically seems to be Spamton referencing the Snowgrave route, saying that we should have chosen violence earlier and acquired his thorn ring. Here is the dialogue if you do instead spare. Now on to the next step. I'll be waiting at my homemade storefront site, in the trash area closed for repairs. Come alone. And don't forget a phrase that carries a lot of significance in Undertale, as well as this series, to like and subscribe for more Hyperlink Blocked. It's a dumpster. Looks like there's a pillow inside. After getting knocked out by the toy dog car, we're spit out next to a trash can. It's a dumpster. Seems like there's a pillow inside, suggesting that maybe Spamton has really been making his way around town sleeping in every pile of trash. And we can see just under the poster for one of the Queen's products often advertised around the cyber world, the poster is torn, revealing a faded one underneath. Big Shot Autos. Take a ride around town in our special. The rest is cut off. Coming back through the area with the Addisons, all of them will have updated dialogue referring specifically to Spamton. Haven't heard that name in a long time. Spamton? We don't talk about that around here. Spamton? No idea who you're talking about. Spamton? We don't talk about that around here. Obviously, the mannequin itself is modeled after Spamton, or potentially, Spamton chose to model himself after one of these mannequins. The mannequin counts as an armor. It's a mannequin with clothes permanently attached, useless, and you can only actually equip it to Chris. Its effect is just a group of question marks. The other effect that this dress has is to protect you from sound-based attacks. Ones like those seen from Task and Task Manager, but most importantly, these attacks from Spamton. And this dress is potentially one that we saw Mettaton wear when putting together their play. A little bit of foreshadowing perhaps to have this Spamton-shaped mannequin wearing a dress previously worn by Mettaton, only for Spamton to then eventually wear the entire new body meant for Mettaton. I really love that detail. And so I also won't discount the fact that there's meant to be added significance that Chris can then put on or bear the entirety of this Spamton mannequin with its Mettaton dress. I don't know. Seems like there's probably something going on there. Talking to a swatchling after solving the light puzzle and way after our encounter with Spamton, this mansion used to be a luxurious home for upper-class citizens. Your room, it belonged to a prestigious big shot. Sadly, his name has been erased from the records, suggesting that this room once belonged to Spamton. When asking Swatch about their outfit, the monochrome look is quite suitable, isn't it? Black suit, colored glasses. Many people have failed to imitate this look. Again, meaning to call to mind Spamton, having ripped off this character's style directly. Some even going so far as to attempt to impersonate me in order to get the, oh, never mind, macaron? The way he trails off there in order to get the blank, it sort of feels like Swatch's very own version of hyperlink blocked, not wanting to discuss this very specific subject. Based on Spamton's own pursuit, and a later admission from Swatch, this is likely the hidden body in the basement. Once you've successfully navigated the early part of the mansion, you can now take a shortcut back to the trash zone. A funny little guy was looking for you to the west. He was muttering something about deals, basically telling us to go check out Spamton, giving us hints towards that secret boss fight. Here we can head up to Spamton's little side room. The door is unlocked. You want to go in by yourself? Whatever, do what you want. Here we have Spamton to talk to. The simple black telephone on the table in Spamton's shop is made to heavily resemble those seen in Earthbound, through which the protagonist, Ness, will call his father. Spamton lets us know deep down in the Queen's basement, a great deal is waiting for a limited time only. A heaven-piercing, workout-ready body, circa 1997. Spamton lets you know that you can buy the keygen from him for a low price. Buy the keygen from me, unlock the basement, and get that empty disc. Spamton talks about reaching new levels. Soon I'll even surpass that damned clown around town. Presumably referring to the other secret boss in the game, Jevil. Are the roller coasters still broken? Too bad. I keep petitioning for a public merry-go-round, but there was some ex-famous guy, some salesman lobbyist type. He was afraid of clowns, so he kept it from happening, suggesting this ongoing rivalry between Spamton and Jevil. And I should remind you here that Jevil also had the flavor text, "The air crackles with freedom." When asking Spamton about the night, the conversation quickly shifts. He doesn't have any information to give, but too many excess vacation days? Take a goddamn vacation straight to hell. This is potentially a reference to a line Burger Pants had during the genocide route of Undertale. I can't go to hell. I'm all out of vacation days. This is then replaced with friends. This is where he starts referring to his friend Mike, and then kind of phases out, with some rain behind the static of his eyes. He warns, don't believe anything you see on TV. The man's a criminal, I tell you, a criminal. Basically, the day this chapter came out, people discovered this old video online, Mike Ditka's Big Shot Soda, which itself is dated to 1997.
That's it. It's time for a big shot. You need a big shot? I got your big shot right here. We got 12 delicious flavors, and you'll love them all.
Saber Center has all your big shot tailgate party needs at prices too low to mention. Look for Iron Mike big shot displays at Saber Center.
Seeing as Jevil teased that the boss of the next game was going to be the Queen, and that we're seemingly being set up for the next chapter to take place in a TV world, it's very likely that the main boss there, not the secret one, will in fact be Mike. Oh, there's so much to theorize around Mike and all these other things. I'll save that for more of a theory crafting video. Keep an eye on these randomly generating prices and try to quickly grab it for as cheap as you can. Key item, 100% certified wares. Transmit my 2 chromer. Delicious chromer. There's no point buying the other stuff Spamton has on offer. It lists these insane benefits, but when you actually buy it, it's a frayed bow tie, an old bow tie. It seems to have lost much of its defensive value. And a broken sword. A rejected sword cut into 2 pieces. Not even you could equip this. Mansion, basement, find it. What kind of creepy stuff were you buying anyway? Nah, like I even want to know. Yikes. She said she hoped if it was candy, you'd share with her. Shut up, Chris. In our key items, we now have the Keygen, a shady-looking program that can open certain doors. A Keygen is something created by hackers to allow you to randomly generate an activation key to obtain illegal copies of software. So yeah, obviously it would be shady, and it allows you to open the doors of your software. Toby loves to put in the strangest, most obscure references. It makes it a heck of a lot more difficult than sorting out the references in a game like Henry Stickmin. If you talk to Spamton through the Our Deal option after buying the Keygen, results in a short sequence that uses the Unreal Superhero 3 track from Kenneth and Rez. And uses it in the same way it was featured in the 2009 YouTube poop, The King Downloads Sony Vegas, where he glitches out from using a Keygen. Bless you, Toby, and your hyper-specific knowledge of weird internet culture, and your insistence on slipping it into your games and teaching all of us a little bit about you. In this room, past some cars within the mansion, I'm the hacker. I got the feeling there's a secret back door in this room, but where could it be? Now, you can find it and interact with it all on your own, but if you follow the hacker around, his little mouse head will turn into a clicking icon, showing you what it is you can interact with. A secret switch. You heard something opening. There is a locked area in the bottom right side of the mansion. We can open this by specifically using the Keygen acquired from Spamton. And with our secret switch flipped, we can now enter the basement. Chris, you want us to stay here? Sure, whatever. Me and Ralsei will have fun without you. This is then a dark room you can only enter by yourself. This is something specifically commented on in the overworld of the game afterwards. We have the closet in the corner of this computer room that claims it's large enough for someone to fit inside. So potentially this is meant to indicate that it's only big enough for one person, and that's why Chris has to come in here all alone. There is nothing at this save point that fills you with power. It instead is just a save. The first time we leave this basement, Ralsei and Susie are horsing around. Come on, Susie, give me my glasses back. Ooh, look at me, I'm a big dweeb that loves homework. Come on. Fine, take them back. Thank you. Oh, Chris, everything okay? Once you've unlocked the basement, you can come back and talk to Swatch. What? Basement? There's no basement here. You need to relax. Have a drink and talk softly. You're bothering the other customers. Making your way through the basement, we can find chests with nothing. These plugs on the wall that will attack you. If you stand next to one of these plugs for long enough, it's something like 20 in-game seconds. Then it'll slowly shift into this kind of demented looking smile. When making your way through this basement, off to the far left of the furthest room you can reach, we have to wait for this teacup ride. If you walk to the left edge, back to the right, then quickly left again, we briefly get this creepy smiling face in the dark. It somewhat resembles that face we see in the TV at the end. It's unclear if this is meant to be Spamton, a tease towards a future character like Mike, or just something totally unrelated and creepy, but it's probably meant to tease something. We all know how Toby is. The main reason to think that this smile is potentially a tease for Mike is that the in-game sprite is titled image_friend. And Spamton specifically has his dialogue branch about friends where he warns you about Mike. Now, the teacup ride emerging is kind of a point of no return. You can't actually walk back out of this room. You push your way forward, interacting, and it sounds like a force field powering down. The way back up then becomes a extra complex teacup puzzle. It takes a while to really find the rhythm of it. I've died to this many times. Once you make it through, presumably scathed, we have a path back available for us. We need to sprint past everything. We can now head through where we were previously blocked to the section with all of the roller coaster tracks. Through this final door in what appears to be a dilapidated version of the ruins of Undertale, we have this discarded body hanging in the vines. There's something shining inside the old machine. Take it? The empty disc was added to your key items. A data disc from a strange machine. Didn't someone want this? Bringing this back to Spamton. Chris, you did it! You funky little worm. You brought me the disc. Which we can't help but think of Rule's card every time someone calls us a worm. I don't know if these little comments within parentheses are coming from alternate personalities or being randomly selected from some archive of dialogue, or I'm not really sure how this glitchy character is meant to work. But that's one thing I do choose to read into. You hand over the disc and he prepares to transfer my hyperlink blocked. Then Chris, after. This is very important, which every time we see very, we have to think of Gaster. Toby and his words, man, I tell ya. These seem like such innocent little pieces of dialogue, but he's so specific about it, can't help but think he's indicating something more. We agree to transfer. Spamton wigs out super hard. His shop shuts down entirely, becoming grayscale, somewhat like we're used to seeing with the Goners, and the shop no longer has anything in it. Each time we open it up, we hear a fraction of a second of Spamton's speech sound. If you want to make a quick detour, you can backtrack to the mannequin next to the Addison, so long as you never bought it, and specifically interact with the loaded disc, not the empty disc. And this is something that will not work back in your castle town, only here at this step. It's a mannequin. Put the loaded disc inside. The loaded disc squirmed and won't fit, and in any subsequent attempt, it's a mannequin with a dress on. But there are no more interactions there. We need to head back to the basement. There's a slot for a disc here. Insert the loaded disc. You put the disc into the broken down mechanism. Nothing happened. You tapped the mechanism. Nothing happened. You shook the mechanism. You hit it. You kicked it. Nothing happened. At which point, we can leave, and when we get back to this area with the tracks, here's where things really begin. Holy Cungadero, do I feel good, which is presumably the name of a car, as earlier he references driving around in his old Cungadero. Here I am, Chris. Big, bigger and better than ever. The laugh Spamton Neo uses sounds awfully similar to the hidden ABC123 file, again from Undertale. Now obviously this body appears to have a lot in common with Mettaton Neo, and you know, we're even using the name Spamton Neo here. I've seen at least 2 really good theories on this. I'll save that for a theory video. Spamton then repeatedly starts playing up the audience, something that Mettaton was also known for doing, potentially inheriting some personality traits and aspects that go along with the creation of that body. Although the game informs us, there is no audience. In the background, we seemingly see an infinite number of discarded bodies, many of which look like Spamton. When checking Spamton Neo, you won't find higher attack and defense anywhere else. This could be a joke about how Mettaton Neo went down with 1 shot, specifically being known for having no defense. Guess she should have worked more on the defenses. When doing most actions in that Mettaton Neo fight, it'll let us know the stage lights are blaring, whereas in the Spamton Neo fight, the stage lights are shattered. Checking Spamton Neo twice has the dialogue, "He is his own worst invention," a reference back to Mettaton Neo, which read Dr. Alfie's greatest invention. When the game first launched, there was an exploit that allowed you to spam your blaster near infinitely and just waste Spamton Neo. In the patch that followed, rather than removing this ability, Toby's solution was to allow you to do that, but it then triggers an extra hard mode of this fight, Spamton getting angry and more aggressive. The smooth taste of Neo, wake up and taste the pain, is a reference to a line of dialogue that we could find in an unused test room from Undertale. La la, time to wake up and smell the pain. Though it's still a little shaky. Phew 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 phew. And then Spamton attacks us with phones for hands, which potentially calls back to mind the quote from the river person in Undertale, "Beware the man who speaks in hands." Very strangely, the whole Pipis thing might actually be a reference to an old vine from Griffin McIlroy.
Where's all the Pipis? Oh yeah! Pipis room.
Toby follows him on Twitter, is a bit of a known fan, and so it's not unreasonable to think this was lifted from that video, although it feels fairly major to be such a throwaway gag, considering how prominent the Pipis is in the Snowgrave route. The meaning of the word Pipis is kinda hard to pin down. If you Google it, it lists it as being an invasive species of some sort of clam, and in-game at one point it's described as such as well. But a PP is also a Mega Man enemy. Yeah, I giggled at saying PP. This thing drops eggs, which then explode into mini versions of itself. And at another point, Spamton calls them eggs. So our description and knowledge of what this thing is just all over the place. And obviously we have a lot of things to do with eggs in this series as well. My god, with each passing chapter, the theorizing around this game and series just becomes so much more complex. I will specifically compare the end dialogue of the pacifist and genocide versions of this fight. Sparing Spamton Neo. What? Stop the presses. My wires, they're almost gone? Chris, you're gifting me my freedom? After everything I did to you, after the unforgettable deals free chromer I gave you, you're finally repaying my generosity? Chris, I understand now the greatest deal of all. Friendship! Chris, my days as a long-nosed doll are over. Cut that wire and make me a real boy. All in reference to Pinocchio. Are you watching, Heaven? It's time for Spamton's comeback special, and this time I live for myself. No, myself and my friends. Here I go. Watch me fly, mama! Afterwards, the Spamton Neo body collapses, and Spamton themselves is tied up in these vines. It seems, after all, I couldn't be anything more than a simple puppet. But you three, you're strong. With a power like that, maybe you three can break your own strings. Let me become your strength. And without strings controlling Spamton anymore, he loses that insanity. No longer glitching out and sharing random fragments of inserted dialogue, he's actually able to form full, complete sentences. At which time we're given a shadow crystal. You got Deal Maker. The Deal Maker is an armor, fashionable pink and yellow glasses. Greatly increases the dollars gained and... question mark? When specifically equipped to Noelle, she lets you know it seems familiar. If you had instead attacked and killed Spamton Neo. What? Stop the presses. Chris, you think depleting my 8,000 life points may be a reference to Yu-Gi-Oh! In which you start with 8,000 life points. Means you've won a free meal to winning? No, Neo! Chris, your deal has failed. Neo never loses. This is victory smoke. It means it's time for my second form. Are you ready, Chris, for my next trick? I will fill my body with Electricati and become Spamton X. It's a funny reordering of things, because Metaton went Metaton, then X, then Neo. Are you ready, kids? Turn up the juice, turn up the juice. Make sure you don't get it on your shoes. Are you getting all this, Mike? I'm finally gonna be a big shot. Here I go! Watch me fly, mama! And he completely bursts. Still hung up though. It seems after all I couldn't be anything more than a puppet. And he gives the same dialogue at the end, but instead this time grants us the puppet scarf. A scarf made of strange strings for those that abandon healing. There is this additional secret gag scene that plays out if you finish this fight with a full inventory. You got Deal Maker, but your inventory was full. Chris? You filled your inventorium with half-price salami just to keep me out? What the 50% off? And yes, that F was held in-game, that's not me editing the footage. You can carry like 48 items. Why did you do this? Why, Yellow Gamma? Not cool, Chris. I'll be in my trailer. We have a little slide whistle and he floats away. But then just off to the south here, there is a treasure chest where you can retrieve your missed item. As we're making our way out of the basement, the door rattles, but doesn't open. We can no longer head back that way. As we make our way out after this pacifist fight, our friends stop us. Hey, so are we seriously not gonna talk about any of that? That was goddamn weird. Puppets, strings, hands? What the hell does any of that mean? And the way he just broke. I don't think it meant anything, Susie. It seems like it was just a corrupted program. He turned into our ally, so let's just accept it. Oh, the way Rousey brushes past that, I'm so suspicious of him. Chris, you've got goosebumps. You okay? This is one of the critical instances where it appears that we, the player, are really influencing Chris. If we say yes, we're okay. If you say it all strained like that, I'm not gonna think you're okay. Hey, Rousey, you think Chris is okay? Well, they seem a bit shocked, but Chris doesn't want us to worry, so let's not push them for now. Chris, I'll make some cake for you later, okay? I could even make it chocolate flavored. Butterscotch, cinnamon, whatever you want. Well, their stomach's rumbling, but the goosebumps aren't gone. Chris, if you're cold, you can share my scarf. Sure, Susie could? What? No, hell if I'm giving you my jacket. You make me cold. I'm burning you knuckleheads for warmth. Susie? Too late. Already imagining you guys as idiot-scented candles. That got Chris smiling. Let's go. The strained response is that this is not what Chris wanted to say. They are not okay. If we instead respond, no. Chris, are you okay? You're yelling. There. Everything's all right. Don't think about what happened too hard, okay? Just take some deep breaths and think about something you like. Something nice, something soft. I'll be right next to you until you feel better, Chris. Guess Ralsei's right, Chris. Whatever just happened, I guess maybe it didn't mean anything? I don't know why you came here, but let's just be glad you didn't get killed. Just tell us next time. You're gonna do something stupid like this, okay? This is seemingly the answer Chris wanted to give, forcing it out, held behind clenched teeth, shouting it the moment we allow Chris to share their true feelings. Things play out slightly differently if you had already hugged Ralsei on the boat ride and made them the hug prince. Ralsei comes over, gives you a great big hug, they're there, everything's alright, don't think about what happened too hard. And from there the dialogue is the same, we simply have the addition of that nice warm fuzzy boy hug. After completing this fight, we can again talk to Swatch about the basement robot. So that's what happened. That robot was the embodiment of a Lightner's dream. The idea of Asriel drawing it is still quite fun, yet everything seems to really point to it instead being tied to Mettaton. A dream I helped create once. Splashing color from the motion of their hand, the Lightner filled it with their own hope, giving it an incredible power. But in the end, nothing ever came of it, and it was left in the basement with the rest of the corrupted data. But that crooked salesman, somehow he learned about the robot and thought he could use its power to fulfill his own twisted dreams? What a pity, to think he was once a valued customer. We can also talk to the Swatchlings in the earlier parts of the mansion. Spamton, this used to be his room. Though, it's not like he used it after a while. Eventually he just spent all his time in the basement, praying. When things went downhill, he became obsessed with that artifact. Maybe he thought it would give him another big break. If you head back to the trash zone, the Addisons are now all here instead. We can enter the shop, there's nothing there, and talking to this lineup of characters gives us a bit of a history of Spamton. He was like the rest of us, just a little unlucky. For some reason, his products never seemed to hit, and the Lightners never even looked his way. Poor guy. Night after night, when we all went to the same cyber grill, he'd shoot his mouth about making it big someday. You just watch. Someday, I'm gonna be a big shot. He started to get a little desperate. I heard he started looking for any way to become more popular. Somehow, he made the right phone call and found someone. Or was he found by someone? They must have been helping him because suddenly, he was on the phone all the time. Suddenly, he got really good at his job. The clicks started piling up. What? What did he do? Why did he deserve this? We were all so jealous of him. We stopped going out with him. I mean, wasn't he a big shot? He didn't need us anymore, did he? Even so, he only got more and more successful. He moved into a luxurious room in the Queen's mansion. He started bragging about big TV deals, big cars, big commercials, but then things started to crack. It seems like whatever was helping him disappeared. His sales dropped to zero, and everything came crashing down. The day he was to be evicted from the Queen's mansion, I went to his room to check on him, but he wasn't there. There was only a phone hanging off the handle. He must have left in the middle of a conversation, because I could still hear someone on the other end. But when I put the receiver to my ear, there was nothing but garbage noise. That's like the single most exciting line from this entire chapter. We know that every time we use our cell phone in the dark world, we hear a bunch of random nothing, and it informs us that it sounds like nothing but garbage noise. While we also specifically know that this noise is inseparably linked with Gaster through Undertale. I won't go any deeper into it than that here, but I imagine everyone is as excited at that prospect as I am. One of the flavor texts is, "It pulls the strings and makes them ring," which sounds like it's featured in the lyrics of Big Shot. The songs Now Is Your Chance to Be Ya and Big Shot both sample the wow sound effect that plays in Earthbound after naming the party and pressing start. Now Is Your Chance to Be Ya also samples Vile's theme from Mega Man X. If you fought Spamton Neo, then in Hometown at this computer by the recycling bin, it is crashed with a blue screen. And the fact that this recycling bin is filled with loads of accidentally printed off useless emails could be where all the ads in this world, and Spamton specifically, were originally pulled from. Before I round things out, do not forget to check out Alice is Dead Hearts and Diamonds. Wish lists are like the #1 thing we can do to show Steam that you guys are interested. As the publisher for this game, it would help so much. Trying to build some early momentum there. When I teased multiple videos ago that I planned to make a Spamton focused video, I meant like a installment of Pieces of Gaster where I looked at things Spamton related, doing some larger theory crafting and piecing some things together. I did not expect there was enough bonus content, references, and more surrounding the character to become its own tangential Gaster Eggs video. But hey, I think it worked out quite well. That was really fun to put together. But that does mean I still have something like 1 or 2 more videos in that series to do. We're getting there though. We're gonna finish before the end of the year. That's my goal. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Thank you to patrons of the channel. My plan is to start doing monthly update videos over there, in addition to whatever other things I usually share. Just trying to make that more incentivized. I hope to see you all again soon.